Lived with dead parents for 4 years. Murderer, Virginia McCullough. Bodycam episode. Contains bad language.
The police! Stay where you are! Stay where you are, show your hands.
You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCullough and Lars McCullough.
Yeah,
okay? Alright, your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective.
Is there anything in the pocket we should know about?
Yes, there
Where?
is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay.
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there were about 5 wardrobes. It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. I did know that this would kind of come eventually. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy. Murder weapon is upstairs in the private room, kitchen knife. Probably the most grisly detail. You will find forensically it's helpful. There's a hammer. I know.
The footage I have for you today is wild. After 4 years of living alongside her deceased parents, this female actually seemed relieved to finally be getting arrested for her atrocious crimes that she committed 4 years earlier in the summer of 2019. I don't think I've ever seen a killer be so upfront and honest so quickly. She spills the beans before even making it down to the police station. I do think she is indeed glad that it's all now over. I mean, for one, just imagine the pure stank in that house with 2 dead bodies for years. Yuck. Okay, I know you just want to get down to business, so let's get into it. And guys, these details are distressing.
It's fine. No one in here at the moment. Hold on. The police! Got it.
Stay where you are.
Stay where you are!
Show me
Stay where you are, show your hands. You here?
Jenny?
Yep.
Jenny? Oh. The time is 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCullough and Lars McCullough.
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
You don't have to say anything, but in my humble defence, you did
Can
not
I just
mention
take my coffee?
when in question, so much like report anything you do so have the evidence. Okay? Alright, your arrest is
I'll
necessary
cooperate, I'll
for a prompt
cooperate.
and effective.
Is there anything in the pocket we should know about?
Yes, there
Where?
is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
Can you go in there for a second, just so I can tell you something about what's in there?
Yeah.
And then,
Let's tell us
the only
something
reason
about
I
what's in
said I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine, we'll
Yeah,
go.
okay.
It's a bit more quieter.
Yeah.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Yes, mind your feet, so obviously we
Honestly, I'm not that dangerous.
No, it's fine.
I know, but obviously I've got to be careful. My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
Where about
say,
your mum?
a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
That's why I said, can I go upstairs and show you?
Right, can you
If
explain
wanna
it to
bring
us, please? Because
officers,
we're trying to preserve this. It's now going to be a scene, so we need to preserve this the best we can. So I don't want you to have you walking up there, all right? Because that's for your well-being as well as ours.
Oh, no, up.
Okay. So what?
Thank you.
Where
Can I grab
will
some
we
hairbands
find your
as
mum?
well, if possible?
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there were about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. That's the second one. I've slipped a pile of those into his drink. There were about 2 or 3 drinks that I brought downstairs. And yeah, they were basically, he didn't drink all of them. He only drank probably about half of 2. But yeah, when I went in the morning, this was before my mother. When I went in the morning, early hours, I got up about half an hour early, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Came in and he was gone. He was gone.
Okay.
It's
It's up to you if you want to talk.
yeah.
The thing is, Purpose of your arrest. Purpose of your arrest is for a prompt, effective investigation, as well as by questioning you. We can't do that here. It needs to be done at a police station, all right?
I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. So, yeah.
Okay, so Virginia, I'm just going to ask you this. This is what I've written down based on the information you just told us, because what we regard as a significant comment, because you've made it upon under caution after your arrest.
By the way, they're my granddad's.
Okay, right. So I've written this, please. I, Virginia McCullough, have informed Police Constables 77329 Brown and 79387 Bowers after entering my house on Friday the 15th September 2023 that I murdered my father, John McCullough, who was stated was under a bed in the rear ground floor of the house, and my mother upstairs in a cupboard next to the sink.
Wardrobe. It's a double wardrobe.
Right, okay, I've written
Double
cupboard.
wardrobe. It's like 4 wardrobe doors, but it's the one nearest the sink. Double wardrobe.
The cupboard.
Yeah.
What's significant as I've written down there here now, I've just read out to you. Are you happy to sign that, to say that's a true account?
Yeah. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
I've just woken up today and done my job. No.
I know I don't seem
Not a lot.
100% evil, but we all, I'm
not going to comment on anything. It's not my job to comment on it, okay? Because I've got to be impartial with everything, okay? So I'm not going to give any comments.
No, well, I mean, I deserve to obviously get whatever's coming sentence-wise, because that's the right thing to do. And that might give me a bit of peace. Also in the handbag as well, there's and again, because you're probably going to need to know about it, there's a card in there, card one money, and that's a bank card where there's a lot of transactions that have taken place over the last few years from money that pertains to my parents.
Okay, so this is Virginia McCullough, and she was from a place called Great Baddow, which is a major village and civil parish in the Chelmsford borough of Essex, here in England. Essex is situated about 43 miles from the capital and largest city of both England and the United Kingdom, which is of course London. Everyone seems to know of London. Virginia was in her late 30s and living at home with her parents, 70-year-old Jonathan McCullough and his beloved wife, 71-year-old Lois McCullough. Now Virginia had actually been acting as their carer, helping them with their day-to-day needs and being housed and fed in return. Seems a pretty good setup for them all to me. Lois suffered with her health, including her mental health. She had anxiety amongst other things and even agoraphobia. And Jonathan's health wasn't the best either, needing regular doctor's appointments, checkups and medication. Both kind-hearted and gentle members of the community, the couple were quiet and mainly kept to themselves. But one thing Lois loved the most was quality time with her grandchildren. Which does beg the question, how did 4 whole years pass without anyone calling the police? In the end, it was actually the couple's doctor/GP that would raise concerns for the couple's welfare and ask for them to look deeper. And that is how police would end up at the McCullough family home on this day. Smashing their way into the back of the house, officers had previously tried to make contact with the couple, but Virginia straight up lied to them, saying they were travelling and would return in October. Growing concerns for the elderly couple's welfare and being incredibly suspicious of the daughter's reasoning behind their absence, they decided to use their powers and forced entry into the home. So the bodycam footage you saw just was her initial callous and scarily honest response to being arrested for double murder of her own parents. Have you ever seen a killer tell so much so quickly? It's quite sickening. When told she was under arrest for their murders, before any questioning or searches, she plainly responds with, "Yeah, okay." So no attempt at all there to try and hide her dastardly deeds. Weird, right? Well, it's one word for her. We will delve a little deeper after I show you the remaining bodycam footage, where she goes into even more gruesome and straight-up details of her crimes. She comes off incredibly entitled from the off, having a what's the word? She comes off incredibly entitled from the off and very self-absorbed, even telling the officers to roll up her sleeve and that she doesn't need to be cuffed as she will cooperate. Even the way she looks and speaks to the officers screams entitlement. Again, when she demands, "Hold it up, up, up," with her sleeve again. Like, who the fuck does she think she is?
Alright, that's for your well-being as well as ours.
Oh, no,
Okay, so where will we find your mum? Where will we find your mum?
Then literally just over a minute into her initial encounter with the officers in her home, she is already guiding them to the room they smashed into to show officers where her father had been buried, inside the home. More on that later. I think even the officers are caught off guard by how upfront and honest she is before even entering the interrogation room or leaving the house. Just 1 minute. She was desperate to tell someone, I think. Even for someone so callous and evil as to murder their own parents, that's gotta also take its toll over the years, surely. A comment that jumped out to me was when she referred to her mother's deceased body as it. She did that twice, actually. At least twice. It's behind the bed, at the back, next to the sink. Not she or my mother, but it. It's like she's mentally and emotionally distanced herself from the love she had for her parents and the egregious crimes she committed. Especially her mother. Detaching herself. They are not human to her anymore, just pure, empty vessels. So sad. She also seems to have more hate for her mother and a little more sympathy towards her father, even lying paintings above him like a shrine. Again, more on that soon. One part was redacted of Virginia disclosing exactly what kind of drugs she plied her own parents with, which, I guess in a way, luckily for her father Jonathan, did take his life fairly quickly, maybe even in his sleep. But tragically, her mother suffered much, much more. Virginia was more than willing to talk with officers, but continued to display weird and awkward behaviour and sort of like, can we just hurry up and get this over with? Her extremely odd request of retrieving hairbands whilst discussing her parents' horrific murders certainly highlighted this. She asked that at the exact same time the officer was asking where her mother's body was, so awkward timing for something so menial. Then, the most outrageous sentence of all thus far, well, in a way. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy. What the fuck? Sorry, did he look too solemn and gloomy for you? Just realising an elderly couple were brutally murdered by their own daughter. Oh, and left in the house for 4 years. The fucking cheek of it. Honestly, that's so shocking. She could at least try to pretend to care what she'd done to them. Nah, that's too much for her. Oh, and I know I don't seem it. I don't look it. I know I don't seem 100% evil, but we all... yeah. Darling, why would you think this? Because you're not a fat, smelly man who looks like he owns a basement with a woman locked up? Evil has many faces. Your looks came from the genes of your parents, but the pure evil that's rooted deep into your mind and soul, that's all you. Your looks have absolutely fuck all to do with this, and how easy you can talk about what you did to your own mum and dad will be screaming evil to these officers. Believe me, and stop flattering yourself. Ugh. She says, how she deserves whatever is coming. Indeed you do. So, not claiming insanity then? That's good. And the part that really made my ginger skin crawl, you guys, was when she said this, and that might give me a bit of peace.
No, well, I mean, I deserve to obviously get whatever's coming sentence-wise, because that's the right thing to do. And that might give me a bit of peace.
Oh my god, ugh. Even in that moment, all she gave a damn about was herself. Peace for herself. Imagine what this did to her siblings, nieces, nephews, and all of Jonathan and Lois's loved ones. How sick is that? Not a mention of anyone else. What this will do to them and how they will be utterly traumatised by this. No. That might give me a little bit of peace. And the facial expression is actually sickening, like, poor me, I could do with some peace. Then straight away, Luke's bored and awkward again. She's so bloody weird. And just, ugh, no words for her. She mentions the bank card, Card 1 money, which will become very important to this case and basically the whole reason behind the awful double murders of her own loving parents. But before we go any further, let's get into our second part of the body cam for Virginia's arrest. Still not in an interrogation room, just a cell. No whiff of a lawyer in sight. She's desperate for more. So, they listen, even if the details are incredibly disturbing. So, warning you guys.
So, murder weapon is upstairs in the toilet room, kitchen knife. It's in the middle of the brown carpet, against the wall, opposite the shelves. So there are two long white shelves. So opposite where that wall is, that's where the knife is. So next bit is very hard to talk about. That's probably the most grisly detail. So on the ground floor, underneath the stairs, there's a few like storage boxes and things. And in the middle, I think it's in one of the boxes or in a bag or something. If you want me to shush after this, it's fine. But every bit helps. You will find forensic bits helpful. There's a hammer. I know, but I'm trying to help so you find everything. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it. So not cooperating is it's futile.
Yeah.
There's no point in not cooperating, there really isn't. And plus, apart from which anyway, I should pay for what I've done. That's the other side of the coin, I think. So, yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable, isn't it, you guys? First of all, the decision to kill your own mum and dad is just always so hard to understand. But the way she more than happily just talks about it, in such detail too, is outrageous to say the least. Even Virginia can see the shock on the officer's face as to what they are hearing. Like, when she mentions a hammer, and then she says, I know, but I'm trying to help so you find everything. Her response clearly shows that the officers are still visibly shocked as to what they are hearing. Extremely callous. So let's delve a little deeper into this crazy story and life of the McCullough family and what led to such abominable deeds by a daughter who was meant to care, love, respect and appreciate all her mum and dad had given to her. Late 30s, single, jobless and still living at home with her parents, Virginia McCullough really didn't have much going for herself. Not that she would have probably agreed to that, with such an inflated ego as the one that she owns. As I said, Mr. and Mrs. McCullough were a quiet and kind couple who loved their family, and with their youngest daughter, Virginia, certainly to their detriment. They lived in a 3-storey but modest home on Pump Hill in Great Barrow. They had 5 children, all daughters, with their killer Virginia being the youngest. They were a retired couple who had always been hard-working, but now in their 70s they just wanted to relax and spend quality time together. Jonathan had a huge passion for education and writing, a very smart and knowledgeable man who had worked tirelessly in his career in the university education. Jonathan had many hobbies, with his top listed by family as being snooker and golf. This man sounds a lot like my dad, which makes her horrific crimes even more incomprehensible, heart-wrenching, and just beyond me. I'm sure most people can agree with that. Her dad just loved telling jokes and making people laugh. Gosh, it really is like describing my own father. Like, seriously, how could she? Lois was described by loved ones as being kind, caring and thoughtful, with a huge love and special place in her heart for her grandchildren, with friends from all around the world, of which she made with her passion and hobby for pen friending. I guess, suffering from anxiety and agoraphobia, this is a great way to hold down a friendship. She had written to many people for decades. Bless her. My gran just loved writing to people. Oh, I hate it when I relate these awful crimes to my own loved ones. Makes it all that much more harder to cover and take in. Lois also had a passion for the topic of history and had a keen interest in anything to do with the royal family. The loving couple often went to the seaside together and loved their time away, taking many walks together and enjoying all kinds of attractions. In their retirement years, they actually had plans to physically move to the seaside. But their future plans of spending their later days by the sea with the comfort of one another would be cruelly stolen by their own pride and joy, their youngest child, the one who supposedly cared for them. Not only that, the Card One Money bank card she mentioned, pertaining to monies owned by her parents. Yeah, she had been helping herself to their funds and fleecing them both for years. And unfortunately for everyone, this had finally caught up to her. And she was left cornered like a mouse and took it upon herself to eliminate her own mother and father. You see, Virginia is a prolific and toxic liar, lying about jobs she never had, saying she was studying hard to be an artist and was working as a web designer, when in reality she did a bit of bartending work briefly, and that was in 2017. She even did the whole pretend pregnancy thing and wore a maternity dress, faking she was with child to many people. So she clearly craved and urged attention from people. She clearly craved and desired attention from others. But people knew what she was like and literally knew it was all pretend, which is crazy and tells us a lot about the mind of this sick individual, like who straight away just goes, that's not a real baby in there. I know it actually does happen, quite a bit, but it's just not the first thing you'd think, is it? If someone tells you they're pregnant, you don't just go, it's a fake baby. Her parents may have adored her. She was their baby. She actually was one. Their own creation, and they did fall for many of her lies, even believing that she got up and went to work every day at an office, when really she was probably just visiting Essex Market and grabbing a coffee. Unreal, it really is. But Virginia's sisters, they knew more of the real, true evil inside of their sibling, describing her as being socially awkward and overall just weird, plus a compulsive liar. She'd probably been doing it constantly since they were kids, starting fights and then putting that whole Puss in Boots act on to her parents, whilst blaming her sisters instead. I can so see that. And as I said before, she just screams entitlement, straight off to even the responding officers, and someone that needs and seeks attention. Jonathan and Lois trusted their youngest child with their funds to pay and take care of the household bills. She lived in her parents' home rent-free and had full access to their bank accounts. The worst decision the couple ever made. As I said, she rinsed them dry. No retirement at the seaside waiting for them anymore. Awful. Virginia actually had an addiction to both online shopping and online gambling, which I think we can all take a wild guess as to how easy and just how much of this couple's money she simply just spent with just a couple of clicks. Not giving a shit about their future, only herself and what she wanted. God knows what else she spent all of their money on, as she wasn't said to take any luxurious holidays or drive a fancy car, just mainly online gambling pretty much, and shopping. She would also display very odd and questionable behaviour, like offering people in the neighbourhood free takeaways and booze. Okay, someone needs some friends. Neighbours also witnessed her for hours just sweeping barely any leaves off her family's driveway. Along with pretending she was pregnant, she was also heard just screaming randomly. This is an odd woman, to say the least. After she decided to make the ultimate, most horrific decision to kill Jonathan and Lois, she then went on to impersonate them both to family and friends, texting loved ones and making many excuses for their absence. She would even go to the extent of purchasing postcards from the seaside area of Clacton-on-Sea, pretending that's where they were. And because they were known to do this often, it actually did end up fooling many people for a long period of time. She is so cunning and callous. Not only did she pretend to actually be her deceased parents, she would even claim and use all of their pension money that they received. Honestly, she has no conscience or morals at all. So this horrific double murder supposedly took place in the late summer of 2019, around June. Making excuses for Jonathan's and Lois's absence was becoming harder and harder. She was lying to their doctor, claiming they were both miraculously feeling better. Given her father had many health issues, such as type 2 diabetes, glaucoma, troubles with high cholesterol and other things, so would clearly need medication and general checkups with his GP. This is pretty hard to believe. I suppose for a few months she managed to make excuses for them both, not attending, and when it almost became impossible, Virginia received a sort of saving grace, if you will. That being the COVID-19 pandemic and ultimate lockdown. So now no one was physically visiting their doctors. Perfect. People were not even visiting family or friends, especially the vulnerable and older people, like Mr. and Mrs. McCullough, with their health issues.
Good evening. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. All over the world, we're seeing the devastating impact of this invisible killer.
Hello, good morning. We haven't seen anything quite like this before, have we? We're all trying to get used to the new restrictions on our lives and trying to absorb them. The UK wakes up to the toughest restrictions on daily life in living memory to tackle coronavirus. Everyone must stay at home, only going out to shop for basics, exercise, and travel for medical attention or essential work.
I hope that people will follow this advice. If for any reason they don't, penalties are there.
This is what it's like in Piccadilly Circus in central London right now. Not many people, not many vehicles, although still a few, I have to say, as the UK gets to grips with the tough new restrictions. We're all going to have to adapt to a new way of living, aren't we?
I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Because the critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading between households. You should not be meeting friends. If your friends ask you to meet, you should say no. You should not be meeting family members who do not live in your home. You should not be going shopping except for essentials like food and medicine.
Virginia made many excuses as to why no one was seeing either of the quiet, kind husband and wife from Pump Hill. As we all know, the pandemic stretched out and lasted a lot longer than any of us expected it to. And it also really did terrify many people and caused a huge rise in mental health problems, with being isolated and unable to see their loved ones, and other things like not going to school and just things like that. Now, as I said, Lois did suffer with agoraphobia, so staying inside for long periods of time would be fairly normal to her. But John often met a friend for drinks at the pub, so questions were beginning to rise. But of course, Virginia had all kinds of reasons ready, which the lockdown only made it much easier for her. You know, people couldn't go to the pub anymore and meet socially as they always had. It was a very hard time for us all, so not seeing people for long periods of time unfortunately became the norm, and many disappearances and deaths went unnoticed because of the crazy situation our country was in at the time, of which none of us were prepared for, including doctors. Virginia told relatives to stay away and neighbours that they had relocated to the seaside, as they had not seen the couple once for months and months. But the family members did not live nearby, so she would pretend to be her mother, Lois, and even send her own siblings loving messages from their deceased mother. So incredibly sick and cruel, and devious. Everything was so planned and thought out. From the fake texts and even calls to family members, like one text she sent to her sister that read, "Your dad and I are at the seaside in Walton this week. Mum, kiss." Because if you see an X, that means a kiss, by the way. In Britain, we always put an X for a kiss. As my friend rightly warned me that when I put 3 of them, it just kind of makes things look X-rated. I never thought of that because that's just what we do in Britain. Then, going to the extent of purchasing those postcards from the Clacton-on-Sea area, it's truly evil. And then, lying that her parents had actually moved areas, yet they hadn't sold their house, taken any of their belongings, or even been seen by a single person moving any of the stuff out of the home. She's clearly not the smartest killer, but had serious intent and planning before and after the double murders. Another creepy thing Virginia did was always keep the family home curtains shut. Now this is quite sinister, as she actually had a perfectly good reason for doing this. Her mum suffered from agoraphobia, anxiety, OCD and other things. And if you know anything about agoraphobia, like myself, you will be aware that keeping the curtains shut is a big thing. It blocks the outside world out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And outdoor noises freak you out too, so windows shut. Even just the daylight can be ultimately too much to handle. So it's completely understandable to act this way, even if it looks a little odd to people. But many years ago, shutting the curtains like this was also used as a sort of term of respect if someone in the household had died. Creepy and sinister, right? You never know, that partly could have been the reason, or she just didn't want anyone to see inside and catch her crimes. It's still mad though that 4 whole years passed before the serious alarm bells were ringing. Virginia even posed as her mother with a sickly voice saying she was unwell on a call to her own sister. Beyond sick. People in the Chelmsford area started to notice Virginia was acting even more strange. But with the pandemic and all of its restrictions causing mental health issues to skyrocket, plus they thought she was taking care of her unwell parents whenever they were there, which would also take its toll. No free time, etc. So people just thought, well, she was odd before, but the pandemic hasn't helped. Then she was witnessed sweeping her driveway for hours on end, like she was physically avoiding the inside of her own home. I wonder why, hey? The stench of the rotten corpses, perhaps? Seeing the rooms she murdered her parents in? Hearing their voices around the dinner table even, perhaps? I could only imagine, even from such a monster, all of that surely cannot be just fully ignored and forgotten about for all those years. Now this part is really strange. In the years following the horrific murders, Virginia is said to have called the police over 100 times, again even pretending to be her mum, seemingly faking break-ins or people beating her up, just really wild and random stories and crimes that literally never happened. But by doing this, she was pretty much inviting the authorities into her murder scene and burial site, where her parents lay decaying again and again and again. Odd. So it begs two questions for me. Was she hoping to get caught, for them to find her crimes? Or was she crying wolf over and over to hopefully make the police not bother with her overreacting and always calling? Or even this, she was purely rubbing her evil, dastardly murders right in the police's noses. Haha, they're right there and you still don't know, kind of thing. What do you guys think of this specific odd behaviour? Very strange, but hey, that's Virginia McCullough for you. So finally, a whole 4 years and 3 months following Jonathan and Lois's deaths, alarms were raised over concerns for 70 and 71-year-old Mr. and Mrs. McCullough. It was their doctor. Yep. The pandemic was a good excuse for a long time, but now he was beginning to seriously worry for the health and well-being of the loving husband and wife. All of the cancellations, missed appointments, and prescriptions not collected screamed something is very wrong. So their doctor took it upon himself to contact the Essex County Council safeguarding team, which is great, as if you have concerns for a child, disabled, elderly or vulnerable person in any way, you can visit their website and contact this team, who will look into the situation and worries, and then contact police if needs be. And yes, here, needs be. The police were alerted. So in September of 2023, 4 years after the murders, Virginia received a phone call from the Essex Police. Of course, Lois and Jonathan couldn't come to the phone. They were dead. But she told the police, "Oh, they're just off travelling, and they'll be back in October. You'll see." You can just imagine the way she said that, can't you? Cocky as anything. But the coppers smelt a rat immediately. They weren't waiting any longer. She may even attempt to escape the country if they did. So on the 15th of September 2023, at 12:12, as the officer mentioned, they came and apprehended their suspect, only to learn even more detailed horrors than they ever expected. But cheer up, hey? At least they caught the bad guy. Ugh, sick.
Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
Apparently, since March of 2019, she had been planning her parents' brutal murders, after lying to them constantly about where all of their savings had disappeared to. Hackers stole it, etc. They began to question her and stopped believing her lies. Now, she wasn't just taking a tenner here or 20 there. No, not only was she personally £60,000 worth of debt, but she had also stolen a sickening £150,000 from her own parents' lifelong, hard-earned savings. How goddamn low can you go? Not much lower for me. So around June of 2019, she decided to take it upon herself to murder both of her innocent, loving parents, who never gave up on her, always bailed her out, gave her a home, free food, etc., all of her life, anything she ever needed. And she repaid them by firstly stealing all of their money, then their entire lives, and then even profited after, for years, with their 2 pensions. Beyond sick, evil, and twisted. Virginia stated how she felt trapped, having to take care of her parents. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Having a safe place to live and stay, rent-free, all of the food and money you could want, no job, and a caring mother and father. dad cracking jokes all of the time. Yeah, I'm sure it was really took its toll on you. Poor you, Virginia. Nothing to do with getting caught, stealing all of your parents' money and savings, and feeling completely cornered, eh? Sure. As I mentioned earlier, the way she describes her deceased mother as it, and how she discarded her versus the absolute shrine that she left for her father, and calling him that too, says a lot to me. It's very clear that she cared much more for her father than her mother, and various things solidify this. Firstly, number 1, she described her mother as being a happiness hoover, so basically just sucking all of the happiness out of things, and even commented on how she used to hit her as a child when bathing her. So that could have clearly been a reason to hold a grudge, and have hatred for her mother, and serious resentment towards her. But this could also be just pure bullshit that she's trying to use for her defence, but we will never really know. Her sisters do strongly disagree to this. Number 2, then the very different ways that her mum versus her dad actually ended up being murdered. So she had saved up for months various prescription medications, turned them into a cocktail, and served them to her adoring and caring parents. But she even admitted that she had a feeling this would not work on her mother, as she had not given her anywhere near as much as her father. I think she actually kind of hoped that she'd still be alive the next morning. But if the drugs took her instead, then cool. I think that's how she felt. Wanted her dad to leave peacefully, but wanted her poor mother to suffer immeasurably, knowing her own daughter was beating her to death with a hammer and then a knife to finish the job. Sadly, her mother was awake that morning, just casually and happily listening to her morning radio station. Not a clue what was about to happen. Even greeting her daughter good morning. So sad. When her incredibly evil and disturbing youngest child suddenly rained down a hammer over her head, which she would have known was her own child doing it. She fought for her life, you guys, with many defensive wounds on her body. Fucking brutal. But Virginia McCullough wasn't done with making her mother suffer. She went downstairs and retrieved a kitchen knife to finish off the job. So personal. To actually use a hammer to beat your own mother's head in, then stab her relentlessly, then just throw a body in a wardrobe, actually screams, I wanted her to suffer. She even stabbed her mother so violently and viciously that she ended up sending herself to the doctor with a serious injury from the kitchen knife. Wow. But apparently she was just chopping veg. Then, number 3, how she chose to bury and discard of both of their bodies in completely different ways. Both starting the same, having their corpses placed into separate sleeping bags by their murderous daughter. But that's where the similarities stop. Her poor, gentle mother had been callously discarded in her own bedroom wardrobe, which was then taped shut and blocks were placed in front. No care at all. Just want it gone and forgotten about. I bet she probably never even entered that room again, and if she did, maybe even just to see the crime scene or clean it, not to apologise. But with her father's body, she took much, much more care, placing his corpse into his bed and basically turning that into a tomb for her father to rest in, with wooden panels and concrete blocks, perhaps like breeze blocks used for foundations to homes. Then filled in the gaps with filler to, I guess, both contain the smell and encase his body. She actually used 11 layers of material to cover him, very opposite to her mum then. She lay all different blankets over the top, nicely placed, and even lay various photographs or pictures on top too, like a real shrine and tribute to him. Remember, she even made it a point to tell the officers about the pictures and how they were her grandfather's. so you can clearly tell they are special to her and contain sentimental value. The stark contrast as to how she would refer to her mum, or it, versus her father. How she murdered them in polar opposite ways, her dad perhaps even peacefully, then her mother's tremendous torturing and suffering, seeing her daughter murder her, to how she treated both of their corpses following the brutal murders, really does say a lot to me. She actually values her father in a kind of sick and twisted way, because, let's face it, he still had to go, because of pure greed, pride, and self-preservation. Which is going well, hey? But her mother, wow, she clearly despised Lois. She had pure hatred in her heart for her, and some sort of axe to grind. But she chose a hammer, drugs, and a knife, not even just a pillow. This was incredibly personal, and sent her mother a clear message in her dying moments. I hate you. It may have just been her father's death that played on her mind, and what she actually probably felt bad for doing. Maybe visiting his shrine and talking with him. So hard to imagine or attempt to even comprehend. Utter madness. So I feel the murders were twofold. One, the major financial debt and problems she found herself in, and no more reasonable excuses to give to her parents as to where all of their money had gone. Plus, she really just wanted to kill her mother, and tragically, Jonathan was like collateral damage. Well, they both were really, to attempt to cover her tracks. Self-preservation. To me, it just seemed like she took more pleasure in murdering her mother, I'm sorry. Herself is all she cared about, always happily taking and stealing from her hard-working parents, and in return, brutally murdering them. Pure evil. Thank you to that caring doctor for reaching out, because trust me, at that time in this country, it would have been really very hard to have even noticed people were missing. Especially when their seemingly caring daughter is helping, collecting things and cancelling appointments on their behalf. It was thanks to him that this vile scum of the earth was finally captured and arrested on suspicion of double murder of Jonathan and Lois, her mum and dad. And she doesn't even try to deny it. All details were fully displayed for everyone to see. She even practised poisoning them both on previous occasions before, just to get that perfect amount. Dry runs, if you will. Her father being dead that day may have even been a shock to her, but now Lois was all hers. I still can't fathom just how brutally she chose to murder her. I mean, come on. Even people who truly despise their parents would never dream of taking a hammer to their head and knifing them to death. Then living for years with their dead bodies. That's some serious level of... I don't even have a word for it. I genuinely don't think there is even a word invented strong enough for how depraved that really is. And she claims she doesn't seem evil? What the hell? People like her need eliminating from this earth completely. Waste of taxpayers' money. As much as Virginia could have hated her own mother, for whatever unknown reasons, as her sisters always denied she was ever abusive, plus all that she had ever given to her and did for her daughter, perhaps the extent she went to that day was actually just down to pure anger that her father was now dead, but she was still alive, and would uncover Jonathan's body very soon if she didn't act quickly. That could have simply been the reason why, but it was known that she had the backup plan of the hammer and the knife, so what does that tell you? She needs to go now. That's what she could have been thinking. But to me, she still clearly cared for her father more, and plus, if your mother abused you, why would you never leave home and stay under her roof all of your life? It just makes no sense. Plus, the method of murder was damn right depraved. She's just a straight up, sick and twisted individual.
McCullough poisoned her 70-year-old father with prescription medication and beat her 71-year-old mother with a hammer, then stabbed her. Concerns for their welfare were raised in September 2023 by a GP at their registered practice. A safeguarding team at Essex Council then contacted the police.
McCullough lied about almost every aspect of her life, maintaining a charade to deceive everyone close to her and clearly taking advantage of her parents' goodwill. She is an intelligent manipulator who chose to kill her parents callously without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss.
Cheer off, at least you caught the bad guy. And that might give me a bit of peace.
Her casual demeanour does not tally with the tale of desperation pieced together by Essex Police. A woman hiding her financial black hole from her parents, giving them false assurances about jobs and future prospects.
Particularly ghastly case. Firstly, the murder of her father using prescription medication will inevitably have caused a very painful and harrowing death. Then, of course, the brutal murder of her mother by repeatedly stabbing her, and then 4 years of lies, deceit and deception as she sought to cover up her murderous actions. These murders went unnoticed for 4 years because she repeatedly told doctors, neighbours, anyone that she came into, a complete set of lies, claiming that her parents were on holiday or were poorly or had otherwise gone away for a while, when, of course, their dead bodies lay concealed within the home that she'd shared with them.
So, after making the drastic decision to callously murder her own parents, including stabbing her own paternal mother 8 times, 7 of which were straight to her chest. Wow, personal. Covering up both murders and immediately the following day going on to impersonate Lois to obtain yet another credit card and PIN number in her mother's name. Ugh. Which she then used to splurge on new jewellery and clothes for herself. Despicable. Scum of the earth. Even Jonathan and Lois's £136,000 pension went straight into Virginia's pocket. You just seriously cannot get much lower than that, can you? And somehow she impersonated her father for that transaction. Unbelievable. What was she doing, using like a voice changer or something? Ooh, makes my skin crawl. Lois's brother, Richard Butcher, was left heartbroken after falling for Virginia's lies all of those years, thinking his sister and her husband were truly alive. Just somewhere off enjoying the beach and their time together. What this tragedy must have done to their family, children and loved ones is just incomprehensible. The lies and deception and lengths and depths she went to in the following years displays depravity at an incredible scale. So, on the 11th of October 2024, Virginia McCullough did decide to plead guilty to both murders. Oh, well done you. For this, she was sentenced to 36 years in prison, reduced by 4 years for the guilty pleas, of which I never understand, by the way. Because you admitted doing it, you get less time? What? If they fucking knew you'd done it, why? Ugh. Anyway, and then again, down to 34 years and 341 days because she had already spent 389 days behind bars. So fucking what? I say she deserves the exact same slow and brutal method of murder that she chose to inflict upon her own mother. But alas, that cannot be. And this is Britain, where the justice system sucks major dick. Like, incredibly pathetic. Just under 35 years for stealing 2, not 1 but 2 wonderful, gentle people from this earth is an absolute joke. Who agrees?
Some breaking news to bring you now. Virginia McCullough has been sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 36 years. And that is for the murder of her parents John and Lois McCullough at Chelmsford. Crown Court, she admitted to killing her parents between the 17th and 20th of June in 2019.
So she will remain in custody at least until she has served the minimum term. After that, it will be up to the parole board to decide whether this sick-ass, depraved and deceitful individual is even safe to be released. No. If they do choose to release her, she will remain on licence and will be liable to be recalled to prison for the rest of her life. Luke, if she can do that to her own mum and dad, what the fuck can she do to strangers? Let's hope she rots, thinking and torturing herself every second of the day for her atrocious crimes. Her inflated ego, compulsive lying tendencies, and all-around cocky nature will not aid her in the women's prison system, I can assure you. Oh, and obviously being the killer of your own parents. As Lois's brother Richard poignantly said, "You think more of money than you do humanity." Strong and powerful, meaningful words that couldn't be more true. Well, now she gets to enjoy the basic drab prison uniform with no hair and makeup treatments, no clothing trips, and certainly no online gambling. Enjoy your time in a cold, depressing cell, Virginia. I hope it's incredibly rough and seriously sucks for you. Slow and torturous, just like the murder of your parents. Rest in heaven, Mr. Jonathan and Mrs. Lois McCullough. Together forever. Thank you all for being here, watching, commenting, subscribing, and showing me and my channel support. Forget the haters, guys. It's all about the appreciation of the good folk. And I love you all. Back soon for more like this, and other random episodes. Thanks for being here, all of you. Let me know your thoughts on this tragic case in the comment section. Mr. and Mrs. McCullough. Random Jen.